Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight for another edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. Tonight, we'll be looking at HR Automation Revolution. And our facilitator tonight is Aderele Amosu, who is no stranger to this platform, one of the promoters and key stakeholders. And again, he has created time to share from his wealth of experience and knowledge. But just in case of one or two people who may not know him, I would like to read his profile very quickly. So that we may get to know him even better. This slide to move from my end. All right. Aderele has over 14 years experience in human resources. He's a distinguished professional known for his expertise across a broad range of sectors, not limited to telecommunications, oil and gas, where we actually met each other, financial services, fintech, logistics, and tech mobility. Ladies and gentlemen, he read English, from the University of Lagos and is an associate of the Tara Institute of Personnel Management. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to also say that Aderele has successfully led impactful training initiatives for multiple organizations, including, but not limited to, Sinai Leasing, South Africa Consultancy, HR Leverage, Ministry of Labor, and Employment, just to mention a few. His deep understanding of HR challenges and best practice, coupled with strategic leadership and collaborative approach, have consistently driven organizational goal. He is currently the head people and culture at a debt asset purchasing firm, and the organization is involved in raising funds for their Series A valuation. So unwind, like they say, Jack, all work, but no play makes Jack a ball. Boy, Aderele likes to play football weekends, and he actually plays. Okay, I wonder why Chelsea has not signed him. He listens to all genres of music. His alternate career is a party animal, and he loves to host events, especially wedding. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to hand over fully the control of this virtual lecture to my friend, my brother, my professional associate, Aderele Amosu. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adeosun. It's always a pleasure to, share wealth of knowledge with teaming HR practitioners across the country. And I know we have a few people who usually join us outside Nigeria too. So it's a pleasure to join once again. And I would like to also use this opportunity to thank as many people who have always been sharing knowledge with us over the past few weeks. I'm sure if you go through the Dr. Oluyemi Osun YouTube page, we have over 400 trainings and webinars that we've had across various topics. Even the topic I'm going to be hosting today, I know there are about two people who have had similar topics spoken on. So it's not going to be new, but at least I'll be bringing another pair of fresh eyes to what we know as the HR automation. I'll just take this back one slide, just tell you what we'll be talking about, and then we go deep into the topic itself. Please, I like my classes or my webinars to be very interactive. So please, as we go along, I may be asking questions. Feel free to drop your answers or your comments in the chat box. Dr. Adeosun, I think my chat box has disappeared again, so maybe you just read them to me or just call me back to speak about them. So, HR automation revolution. Human resources basically is undergoing transformation. I mean, if we check how we're doing human resources in 2010 or in 1960, it's a lot more different from the human resources that we practice these days, simply because we have gone through stages of changes within the organization. At some point, we know that HR used to be admin, and then we split it into the administrative arm, which now dealt with facility management and office etiquette, and then split the other side into human resources. And then we've heard of human resources, we've heard of people and culture. Every day the name is changing, and also the nomenclature for those names, they're equally changing. I'd like to take us back to secondary school, where we did some biology. And I remember that in biology, there was something that we called evolution. And what is evolution? Evolution basically is one stage to the other. For man, for instance, I know we all started as fossils, and then we moved to what you call the Australopithecus africanus. Then we moved to Homo habilis, which is man that had ability, then Homo erectus, which is man who stands upright, and then the current man that we have, which is described evolution. That is evolution. That is the same way HR has also gone through various forms of revolution. So these are some of the terminologies we'll keep seeing over and over while we're going through this slide. And the first one I'd like to point out is called automation. And what is automation? It describes a wide range of technologies that reduce human intervention in processes, mainly by predetermining decision criteria, sub-process relationships, and related actions, as well as embodying those predeterminations in machines. The second one we're going to talk about is chatbots or chatbots, which is a software application or web interface that is designed to mimic human conversations through text or voice interactions. So let me take a pause here and first speak on automation. Now, a lot of us, we usually say that that we don't have time to do so many things, or 24 hours is usually not enough for us to do our daily tasks within the office space. And that is because we do a lot of our tasks manually. If we take payroll, for instance, quite a number of us are still using the manual process of doing it on Excel. And while doing it on Excel is not bad, because I mean, even Excel itself can be very complex, right? But if you have to be doing payroll for 10 people, yes, you can finish it in 2-3 hours. But imagine if you have to do payroll for 5,000 employees, especially those of us who work in multinationals, and not just offices within one geographical location or even geographical locations outside the country. There are some of us that were already human business partners for teams that are out, that you say human resource business partner West Africa, meaning your company as the human resource having to do payroll for those many number of people. Whereas what automation will have done is to just create one technology that will simplify that process for you. Are we together? So that is what automation does. Chatbots, which is something similar to what you see whenever you're on a website and you see one pop up on the bottom right corner, usually at the bottom right corner of the website saying, how may I help you? And that's because they also want to reduce, the organization has seen that my employees would rather take time to do more strategic work or use that time to do more efficient work rather than engaging with the customers. And that is not to say that engaging with customers is a bad thing, but think about if there was a downtime or there was some new services, right? And every customer, let's use one of the telecommunications, for instance, there happens to be some information that wasn't well understood, and every subscriber had to call or had to send a mail to the customer service. It means that the customer service is going to be inundated with a lot of response to be done for that day. Whereas they can do things like an FAQ and program it into their website so that if you chat, I say, okay, if it's for recharge, press 1. For this one, press 2, and then you keep pressing it. And for every of those prompts that you enter, there's a response. So automatically the customer would be satisfied without having the interaction of an employee. Are we together? The next one is AI. And what is AI? AI is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is the science of making machines that can think like humans. It can do things that are considered to be smart. At some point in this discussion, we're going to talk about dependency on AI, or why people think that AI is here to take up people's jobs. But the reality is AI is not there to take up your job. AI is here to enhance your job. And I always tell people who are scared of AI, right? I said, AI will only take up your job if you yourself are not developing your own self to ensure that AI doesn't take up your job. More of the people that I would say AI might take their jobs are people in manufacturing. But even at that, if you're in manufacturing and there's a new technology that comes out and you get ahead of that technology, you studied it, you study how that technology works, right? That in the event this technology breaks down, how can I even be better than this technology? And that is why in most manufacturing industries, right, the people that they promote in the blue-collar places are those guys who understand the technology better than the rest of their peers. So you see that fear of AI is coming to take over my job. I need us to take that out of our minds. AI is not going to take up our job. AI is only there to complement what we do. Which is why a lot of us now these days, and I say it, and I'm not going to be apologetic about it, is the fact that since the introduction of OpenAI, aka ChatGPT, a lot of people have lost that research methodology that we are used to doing, which means, I'll go into Google, I'll just put in a few stroke words, it gives me a plethora of options, and I just pick, then I put my thoughts together, I rewrite it till it's perfect. Now, you just tell ChatGPT or even Meta AI, this is what I need, boom, it's out. But where the problem with that comes in is, can you even defend what ChatGPT or Meta AI has given to you? Because you've allowed this to do the work for you, right? There was almost no thought process into that research. You definitely will not be able to defend that project. Are we together? The next one is HRIS, and I'm sure all of us know what HRIS is. And if you don't know, I'll repeat. It is Human Resources Information System, and it's a software solution that helps companies manage and automate core HR processes and supports benefits administration, time and attendance, payroll, and other workflows, as well as the storage of employee data, such as personal, demographic, and compensation information. Most of us have, HRISs that do this. While some HRISs are all encompassing, which means that it has all these processes that I've mentioned here, some are isolated. Some people buy an information system that is just for time and attendance. Some just buy one for payroll, but some will buy the whole gambit of the HR process. And then the last one is RPA, which is robotic process automation, which is the conversion of manual processes through automation. Are we together? Please, if you have any questions, if I'm moving too fast, please bring me back, okay? So let's look at some case studies, and we'll talk about the case studies, then we move further. So the first RPA is for HR and payroll. So it talks about a client in the UK, a UK-based recruitment service business that was struggling to manage employee leave and other absences. Staff used a web portal to apply for time off and report sick days. However, the HR team was still using an offline HR software system to perform payroll calculations that needed to be adjusted based on absence. This process was monthly, time-consuming, and subject to human error. The business performed an audit of its existing IT systems and payroll software and identified a methodology for integrating these systems. The solution would both prepare and automate communication for both the employee and the HR team to continue amendments due to absence. So before I go to what they did, let me give you a summary of what happened. So they had a software for time and attendance, which is usually the biometric system. So biometric system, you see when people clock in, you see when people clock out, you see when people are absent. However, when they wanted to do payroll, which was on another software entirely, they would first have to download the reports from the time and attendance and then manually calculate the number of days somebody is present for and the number of days someone is absent for. They now feed the information into the software for payroll. That was the challenge. So what did they do next? A trial payroll is run by the end of the month with a requirement for approval from an HR specialist. Pending approval, the bot is also known as robot in the IT field, raises a document with salaries that are adjusted for days of insurance contributions, bonuses, etc., and sends it to the electronic banking system. So what they did was a process workflow that starts with the attendance of every employee. The attendance, it feeds into the payroll. The payroll looks at it, looks at the attendance, looks at any other details that must have been fed into the process, automatically calculates everybody's salaries and sends it to the banking system for everybody to get credited, all on one platform. And what was the outcome of this? The result was that the time spent on this task was reduced by 920% per month. 100% means that if they're doing it in 9 days, or if they're doing it in 18 days, that means they're doing it in 9 days. But for them to say a 920% per month, it means that if they're doing that process in 18 days, it reduced to 1 day. And that is what automation does. Because you should also remember that with automation, if you are spending so much time on one task, especially if you are the only HR person in your department, in your organization, and remember, attendance is not the only process you are going to be doing. There's discipline, there's payroll, there's operations, right? There's employee experience. So you are going to be taking 3, 4, 5 days to do one process. It means that every other month, you'll be having some part of your processes that will be lacking. Let's look at another case study. This one was for HR operations. So using RPA in HR operations is a surefire way to improve greater efficiency. In one case study, a huge offshore outsourcing firm that employed over 200 staff members was hit with a high staff turnover. Now, see what I said. Initially, it's a smaller company. Now we're talking about a company with over 200,000 employees. And now they are hit with a problem, staff turnover. Even if it was only 5% turnover they were having, 5% of 200,000 is 10,000. So imagine having to offboard 10,000 people in a particular month. Onboarding 50 people is a challenge. Now offboarding 5,000, 10,000 people. Now you can imagine the challenge that HR would be facing. Now, was hit with high staff turnover and all the attendant problems that it brings. Employee data was held in different systems, and the process of starting or leaving was hugely inefficient. Let me take people back. How many of us, and by show of hands, let's see this. How many of us have different nominal roles for different processes? So you have a nominal role for payroll. You have a nominal role for attendance. You have a nominal role for every other process. Now, on this sheet, staff 1, 2, 3 is Amosu Adirele. On this other sheet, this same staff 1, 2, 3 is Godwin Adirele. Simply because you don't even have an alignment to how your name should be in your organization. So sometimes when you're even wanting to do the manual VLOOKUP, it makes your data very inefficient. Simply because even from the get-go, right, your data is skewed. Now, sometimes HR will say for onboarding this particular process, I send a mail to admin to provide workstation for this employee. I send another mail to IT to provide work tools, right, and register this person's biometric. I send another mail to the other person who is doing ID card for this employee. Now I've sent one mail, I've sent 3 different mails to 3 different people. Those ones on their own schedule, they have the way they write their own names. Because of that, all the data is held in different places, right? Now, One of the biggest problems the organization faced was that different departments owned or were responsible for different tasks. The various duties of on and offboarding employees were split between HR, facilities, and IT, which was the example I just gave. Each team worked independently. Therefore, handoffs needed to be coordinated and often caused lengthy delays and frustrations for employees. Why? Because I'm coming for onboarding, right? Until I send mail to these 3 different people and each of them now gets back to me, it means that that person's onboarding will not be complete. Now, one of the consistent holdups involved teams sharing information in the form of unstructured data that required manual re-entry into different systems, which was both time-consuming and prone to error. The company solved these inefficiencies by creating an end-to-end solution that was capable of orchestrating each department. They created a web portal to allow teams to commit data to a centralized system, which reduced the wait times between departments by allowing inputs simultaneously or in sequence. But what that means is that now we have some HRISs that have what you call the onboarding module, which means that by the time this employee has received their offer letter and you key in the person's name into the system, automatically the onboarding prompt is initiated. Now, once you have an onboarding that says different people are supposed to perform different responsibilities during an onboarding session, it means that the moment that person's name is entered into the system, people are getting mails at the same time to say, so and so person is supposed to be onboarded. You are expected to, for the facility person, provide the sitting area. For the IT person, create the person's email address and provide the person's laptop. For HR, the person's ID card is expected to be ready, right? Now, it just means that they will also be getting prompts to say, you have a deadline to provide this thing before the person's resumption. While 3 of them could get it at the same time, it could also follow a sequence, meaning HR first creates it. You make HR create it, the next person that is getting an email is IT. Meaning that as HR creates and IT picks up, HR's loop is closed. So once IT creates the email and says laptop is available and clicks enter, IT's loop is closed and facilities loop is open to say create workstation. Then IT facility says, oh, the person who sits down in this area and then presses enter, that loop closes for facilities and it goes back to HR to say onboarding process completed. Whereas the very more manual way will have been, you leave your seat, you go to facilities to start speaking, please, do we have chair? And what are we going to do? This. Whereas with automation, all that conversation would be done within a portal. From there, the business process was handled step by step, with each team prompted by email about what was required, which is what I just explained. And the offshoot was a far quicker offboarding that provided better company security and saved losses of company assets. The business reduced processing time by 90%, improved security, and boosted employee satisfaction. How much automated processes boosts employee satisfaction? For instance, let me use performance management. When performance management used to be paper-based, where you get an email, the email will tell you to first go and print your performance management forms. Then you have to manually start writing in your KPIs or your OKRs, and then you now carry that paper, you send it to, you go and take it to your line manager, line managers to start filling their own, that whole process. Whereas when you have a performance management model, where at the beginning of the performance cycle, everybody keys in their OKRs on a day-to-day, week-on-week, month-on-month basis, everybody's filling in their strategic milestones. So that by the time you get to the performance appraisal proper, a lot of the documentation has even gone through during the cycle, right? So all you just need to do is just do a sign-off so that you can focus on other things. Now, when you have that kind of process, even employees would be happy, or to use the local parlance, would be gingered to, engage in your processes. Are we together? The final one, the final process is still on automation, is that a multinational company that provides business consulting, IT, and outsourcing services across 50 countries. Now, you can see the first one, we started with a small number. Then we started with just a company with over 200,000 employees. Now, we've now got into a company that is operating in 50 countries. With 50 countries, it means they are going to be doing with much more than 200,000 employees. And for over 1,000 clients, meaning each client will have their own employees. So we're talking of the number of people here is running into millions, and was faced with a big challenge. The organization's size and scope were so large that its human resources outsourcing services were responsible for a lot of different processes. Some of these tasks included talent management, employee administration, L&D, employee benefits, job satisfaction, and more. The main issue was that each of these areas required extensive management and no shortage of manual tasks and complex coordination. To make things worse, many of their clients were growing rapidly, which meant the firm needed to scale with them. Failure to do so would cause bottlenecks that would create employees, that would decrease employee satisfaction. An audit with an RPA vendor reviewed several processes that were strong candidates for automation, including synchronized system, data extraction from emails, and data standardization. The business automated several processes, including shift allowance calculation, generating offer letters for new employees, background checks, training program schedules, and various offboarding processes. The results included a 70% reduction in manual tasks, 55% improvement in processing time, and a net saving of almost $700,000. Now, I like how this one has told us how much time it has reduced, what it has improved, and how much it has saved, which is most conversation that most people don't talk about. We do not always put costs to a lot of the things that we do. But then there's something that they said, time is what? Money. Which means that for every time you are spent dilly-dallying, you are losing money. Now, because this particular company has enhanced its process, they've been able to save $700,000. Now, imagine this company has never done profit sharing. They've never done profit sharing before. Now, they have made $700,000. Don't you think they will be happy to share money that year? It also means that if this was one person's process, and that this person has been able to save this company $700,000, this person, number one, will be due for promotion. If this person decides that they want to renegotiate their salary, it's going to be with ease. Why? Because the person has noticed the bottleneck, and the person has saved the company a huge sum of money that can either be shared as profit or can be reinvested into the business for another business year. Are we together? So let's talk about the benefits of HR automation. The first thing is increased efficiency. Now, I read somewhere, and I've said this a lot of time in most of my teachings, is that there was a poll among employees outside HR, and they said, what is HR doing? And they all streamlined it to all HR is doing is hire, pay salary, and fire. HR is not doing anything. Same poll went further to say, is HR strategic to the bottom line of the organization? And a lot of people said no. And that is because HR seems like we are not sitting at the table. HR just seems to be just, yes, yes, sir, no, sir. Okay, we can do this, we can do this. And simply because we are spending so much time doing manual tasks rather than spending time to be strategic. And what is strategy? Basically, strategy is enhanced manual operations. What is the fastest way to doing something or achieving a goal? That is strategy. So HR automation streamlines repetitive tasks. So tasks that you are doing every time. And the thing is, when you do something repetitively, you become a master at it that sometimes you don't even realize that there's a better way of me doing it. So it becomes repetitive and it frees up HR professionals to focus on strategic initiatives and employee engagement. Once you automate processes like your payroll, onboarding, benefits administration, what it does is it reduces manual effort and improves operational efficiency. So I'll use payroll most because I'm more of a payroll. I do a lot of payroll. These days, I don't spend more than 2 days to do payroll. The reason I'm spending more than 2 days is maybe because someone else's job might be dependent, someone else's output might be dependent on my inputs. But the moment I realized that this thing can do it for me, I go to bed knowing that it is right. Except I'm introducing new things like, okay, there's supposed to be some additional components like an incentive to be added, or there was a sudden change within the business for that month that we need to add into that process. That is the only thing that would make my process go outside the day. Another benefit is reduced errors. Now, once you are manually doing something over and over again, the likelihood of you committing errors is very high. Why? Because number one, we are human beings. Now, imagine that company that has to do that has over 200,000 employees and their payroll is manual. If you start at 8 o'clock in the morning to do it, you are fresh, you come into the office, you are fresh, your mind is renewed. By 12 o'clock, there is the diminishing return in your mental capacity. And at that point, you are going to be prone to errors. Now, imagine what if you are doing that till 5 o'clock in the evening. And because you have a deadline, you didn't even take any break to eat or to rest your eyes for that period. It means that by 5 o'clock that day, which is close of business, the likelihood of that person committing 20% errors is high. Simply because the law of diminishing returns has set into your process. And what happens? Your data is compromised and you make mistakes. Because what if you're supposed to add one more zero to somebody's salary? You mistakenly add 2. Or you're supposed to deduct 5,000. You deduct 50,000. Now, what you now do is you will now pay the salary. Then you will now have to start dealing with the errors you made simply because you did not automate that process. Are we together? The next point is enhanced employee experience. Now, when you have processes that things like, I don't need to write a mail or I don't need to walk into my boss's office to say, please, I want to go on leave. Automatically, they could go into there's what you call employee self-service. Most HRISs have it, which gives the employees themselves power to navigate, their own life cycle within the system. Although some of the HRISs will put limitations to what employees can do, but simple things like being able to apply for leave, being able to update my KPIs, being able to initiate, discussions with my line manager can be done on the employee self-service portal of an HRIS, right? Or even sending queries without having to clog emails can be done on an HRIS. My organization, for instance, the only time we send mails in my organization is if we are sending mails outside the organization. Every communication in my organization is done on one channel. We are sharing documents is on the same channel. We want to communicate, it's on one channel. We want to collaborate with other teams outside your current team, is on that same channel. So once I see a mail, I get a mail pop-up. It's 2 things that is telling me. Someone from outside is sending me a mail. Or maybe someone shared a document with me and the Google Workspace is alerting me that, oh, a document was shared with you. Aside that, everything is done. So I don't have to start navigating. If you look at my laptop, my interface, you will never see all the icons you see are either icons for one software or the other. You will never see an Excel sheet on my homepage. You will never see a PowerPoint presentation on one place, right? Because even when you have so many sheets open, at some point you'll be confused. That's why sometimes you open somebody's folder, you see version 1, version 2.0, version 2.3. You don't even know which one was even the latest one. And that is what automation does for you. The final point is data-driven insights. You generate valuable data insights into workforce trends, performance patterns, employee preferences. Because now, a lot of these HRISs come with what you call an analytics module, which means that you want to even check, okay, we've done processes for a whole year. What is the outcome? You want to do a board report, and they say, okay, give me the attrition report. We now start going to your Excel room. Okay, today we are 300 employees. 2 people resigned in this. You now start doing manual calculation. If you have an HRS that has every employee data, just go and click on attrition and it shows you the graph. If you want it in form of graph, if you want it in form of pie chart, it just gives it to you. And the report that you take one day to do, your HRS just churns out that report for you in what? 2 minutes. Also, if you are running things like an ENPS survey, an ENPS is an employee net promoter score. You are running a survey on your HRIS. You can easily see what your detractors are. And your detractors are those that are not going to promote your company, and the ones and what your promoters are. And immediately you can develop HRIS has told you where the problem is. Are we together? So, what is the current stage of HR automation, which is where are we right now? We are in the early adoption stage, because if we need to be truthful to ourselves, if I do a poll right now on this call, right, and say how many of us use one application or the other for their processes in the organization, I can tell you the numbers will still be very low. And it is no fault of ours. One of the things, do you have the money to continue that? Large organizations, big conglomerates, large women organization, business organization, woman organizations, some of them can afford to have these things. There are some software that you are not even paying in dollar, and your company afford to pay $5,000 annum for a software. I don't know, $150 per employee per month. If you have 10,000 employees, how much is that? That's how much you are paying per month. Then how much will you be paying per annum? For the even local ones that you pay in naira, can you even afford it? So right now we are at the early adoption stage where people are just beginning to automation. And the first one most people started with was time and attendance, because a lot of people wanted to be monitoring the attendance of their employees. So everybody started getting biometric clocking machines into the organizations. Then the next thing they moved to was payroll. But now a lot of people are now doing everything encompassing. Performance management is being done on software. Now people are doing disciplinary committees instead of saying everybody should leave their system. Let's meet at the boardroom and let's disciplinary panel. No. From the comfort of their systems, setting up DCs, stations, that's immediately. Then expanding applications, which is automation is significantly encompassing things like talent acquisition, performance, employee engagement, L&D. A lot of companies that do recruitment are using this. Now, let me take one recruitment example. Before, what would you do? You come out with the job brief. You send it to all the job boards, your LinkedIn, your Indeed, notes. Then the CVs come into your email. Then one after the other, you are sifting through CVs sometimes just looking through CV. Applicant tracking systems where immediately you want to apply for jobs. So you put in keywords. What the applicant tracking system will do is automatically sift resumes for you. So imagine if you're on the job brief, you said 10 years experience, should have certain certifications, right? Immediately CVs with less than those keywords enter into the system. It immediately sifts them out. Now, some even now go further by asking certain questions, and it will tell you if they don't meet 80% of the parameters of the questions set into the ATS, it should extract the CVs from the system. So that way, you could have 10,000 people apply for one role, but by the time the recruiting person gets back into the system, the applicant tracking system has shifted the CV from 10,000 applications to maybe 10 or 15. And it's that 10 or 15 that the person will now look through and shortlist for interviews. So that is the point we are getting. Now, we've now gotten to the point of emerging technologies like AI, machine learning, and predictive analysis that are transforming HR automation. There are companies who, because they know that they do not want to, or they don't have the monies to get the big name software, what would they rather do? They would rather employ data scientists, right? Machine learning experts into their tech teams to say, this is the process we have. We want to build something around this process. Help us build. And they build these things for them, right? You also have people like what you call data analysts that help you look through your processes and tells you, okay, this is the trend we are noticing. These are the things that will likely happen if you don't change this process or if you don't modify this process. Some HRISs even can tell you when an employee is likely to leave an organization. How? If the whole life cycle of employment is within that HRIS, and it also gives employees opportunities to drop notes. So they are commenting on their own experiences within that organization. If you click that person's profile, you can see it will show, sometimes it shows in form of an emoji. If the person is fully smiling, if the emoji is fully smiling, it shows that this person is a promoter of your organization and is happy remaining in that organization. If it's just dash, that mouth that is dash, it means that person is neutral. If it's frowning, it means that this person is likely to go. Now imagine the person's profile, you've clicked on it and the emoji is showing the person is frowning. And this same person happens to be one of your best employees. What does that mean? It's trying to tell you that, Oga, this person, if this person goes, these are the likely issues that would happen. You need to keep this employee in place. Are we together? Now, let's talk about practical tools, right? Because we can be talking about automation, but what tools can we use within the organization? So we talk about HR software platforms. In one of the organizations I work on, that was the same organization I met Dr. Adeosun. Our IT team or our tech team were one of the busiest people ever. Everything that we ran in that organization was built in-house. Because my CEO said, why would I pay ridiculous amounts to go and get the software when I can employ brilliant minds to build these things for us? And even Google Workspace. On Google Workspace, if you buy the whole Google Workspace module, your tech teams can build stuff on that platform. Microsoft has the same thing, right? Microsoft has the same thing. Google does that. I have a friend, and I think he had spoken on one of these learning processes. He works for, I'll mention his name because he says it every time. He works for Andela, and he said something. He said, "Really, Andela saves $70,000 every year just because they went fully remote." And he said all they did is buy only Microsoft package, the full Microsoft package. He said all their meetings are done on Microsoft. Their emails are on Microsoft. Their performance management is on Microsoft. Everything they do is on Microsoft. So he said, and I asked him, how did you know that you saved $70,000 in a year? He said, really, because number one, we don't have any physical office. So it means rent is out of it. Light is out of it. Buy new tools every day for people. He said, what he does is just give someone what you call rentage. That's okay. You buy your laptop yourself to work for us, and we'll pay you a rental cost for it. But they were saving money on so many things. And also remember, the time for commute to and fro the office was also eliminated. I remember when we talked about time. Time is money, which means they were also saving money on transportation. All right. So you can build your software in-house, or you can buy one and build on it. Now, a lot of softwares are not backed on your system. They are backed in the cloud. And what is cloud in IT parlance? Cloud is an artificial an artificial storage system. And even that storage system is also backed by other clouds, which means that even if one server goes down, there's some other server that will come up to ensure that your data is protected. So you have cloud-based HR software platforms like Workday, Bamboo HR, and Oracle HCM. And they offer a suite of tools for automating various processes, including recruitment, onboarding, payroll, performance management, and talent development. Then you have things like automation tools. Automation tools like Zapier and IFTTT enable seamless integration between different HR applications. So even if you have one application for payroll, you have another application for time and attendance, you have another application doing this one, you have an automation tool like Zapier that can integrate all of them together. That says, irrespective of the fact that you use different software, we have one software that can integrate everything. And that's where I start hearing conversations like, do you have an API that can integrate with our own software? So APIs is like a backdoor channel that I can use to connect my own software with your own software, so that there's seamless transactions between both softwares. Now, these tools allow you to connect HR softwares with other business systems, creating a unified and efficient ecosystem. So because you are using this software and I'm using this software, doesn't mean that we still can't work together. All right. Now we have AI-powered tools. AI-powered tools like HireVue, Pymetrics, and Greenhouse utilize machine learning algorithms to analyze candidates' data, predict job performance, and automate recruitment processes. These tools help organizations identify the best talent and enhance the efficiency of their hiring process. Best example to give, go and check the top 50 firms in the world. 70% of them use Greenhouse for their recruitment, because Greenhouse is AI powered and it can automatically generate reports for you that you can use as insights into other things, into other initiatives within your organization. The final one is data analytics tools. Data analytics tools like Tableau, Power BI, QLink Sense enable HR professionals to visualize and interpret data from HR systems. This empowers them to identify trends, make informed decisions, and optimize HR strategies based on data-driven insights. Microsoft has one of the best Power BI tools I have seen. And all it does is just keeps pulling reports from all your softwares, and it will immediately just give you graphical details. So for instance, if your Power BI tool shows you, we started January with 500 employees. March, we are 400 and something. June, we are 300 and something. It keeps going down. What does that tell you as a human resources person? That there's something wrong with your system and you need to do something about it. Are we together? Now, what are the emerging trends in HR automation? Please, like I said, if I'm moving too fast, please bring me back. If there's any question, please let me know. All right. So, emerging trends, AI-powered chatbots. So at the beginning, I mentioned about chatbots, and I said chatbots are basically predetermined answers that the organization will feel these are the likely questions that people would ask us, or people would call in, or people will send mails on. So let's have relevant answers that will suit their needs, so that you don't have to interact. That is why when you make an IVR call to a telecoms, they tell you for this, press this, for this, press this. The last option is always, but if you wish to speak to an agent, they now press the corresponding number, because that should be your last resort. Right? So AI-powered chatbots provide instant employee support. So even my organization, for instance, before anybody will come and meet HR, it means that you have gone through the HRIS, you've gone to the FAQ side, and the FAQ has addressed your issues, except there's a comprehension matter, a comprehension problem here. That is when you are now coming to HR for better understanding. But every question has been answered already in our FAQs. So all those things like HR, when can I apply for leave? That shouldn't be a question that would make your staff come and knock on your door. And I'm not saying that as HRs we should be turning people back. No. I'm just saying, imagine that 5 minutes of interruption. Now imagine you are doing something that requires your full attention, and one staff comes in at that moment and takes your attention away. 5 minutes is not so much time. You start looking, where did I stop? And then maybe because you've entered something before, you forgot that you've entered it, you now enter it the second time. What has that created? Error. All right, so it resolves basic issues and guiding employees through HR processes. Another point is predictive analysis, which we had mentioned in the previous slide, that it uses historical data to identify potential workforce challenges and opportunities. Every time you've noticed that every October, that's when you have mass exits from your system. Every October you're having. What does that mean? It means that there's something happening in the global workspace in October that is making your company suffer. So maybe that is when one company that is slightly better than yours is doing their mass recruitment. So automatically your predictive analysis should tell you something usually happens around a certain period, and that is what gives us this data. So what do we need to do to avoid a scenario happening next year? So what this does is it makes HR proactive, and that is where HR should move to, from being a reactive institution to a proactive institution. And that is what is going to take HR from being the yesers to HR having a seat at the table. I say my dream is that one day we will look at all the top CEOs in the world, and they're all coming from HR and not operations or finance, because that is usually where we pick them from. But that the top CEOs will always come from HR. The last one is automated workflows. Automated workflows streamline complex HR processes, reducing manual effort, eliminating errors, and improving overall efficiency. This enhances the speed and the accuracy of tasks like onboarding, performance reviews, and compensation adjustments. Now, this is an assignment for anyone currently on this call who doesn't even use an HRIS. Take some time this week and look at the process that gives you the biggest challenge in the office. Now, this particular process gives us a challenge. All you need to do is just design a workflow process that has a start and end. Also let it have decision trees that if we do this and the answer is yes, what is the next? If it's no, do we go back to readjusting that process, or do we just end that process? You will realize that by the time you design that workflow, right? Even if you don't have the money to automate that process, just by designing that workflow, it will reduce the amount of time you use in completing that task. Because sometimes we're not even putting thoughts into how the workflow of those processes are. But the moment you design a workflow, you will see that you start having more streamlined ways of doing that thing. Now, when you've now done that and you've used that to save some money in doing that process, you can now say, okay, we've saved X amount. Maybe we can get this software to identify this thing. And gradually, you start integrating other processes, other automation processes into it to create a more structured workflow. Are we together? So while we talk about automation also has risks. Because remember, it is human beings that are also creating these things. So no matter how much the process is airtight, there are bound to be errors. And the first one is data privacy and security. Now we've been hearing things like NDPR, GDPR. NDPR is local, GDPR is global. And those are laws that protect privacy. That is why when you go into a website, the first thing you see is, do you want to allow cookies? Sometimes if you read it, the cookies is not just identifying only the your websites where you are browsing from, but there are certain information that you may have been entering into your system over time. It is allowing that website or that organization to mine your data. Sometimes a lot of us fill certain forms for some organizations, and you see that exactly 6 months or a year after you fill that form, you get a mail saying, do you want us to retain your data in our system? Click yes. If you click yes, it ends. If you click no, it will not send another video that you've unsubscribed to our this. That's because both NDPR and GDPR laws mandate organizations to inform people that, do we hold on to your data or not? That is one arm. The second arm is where you have data in your website on your processes, and you do not also have a good data security team, you are open to data breaches. You have hackers every day scoring the internet, trying to buy data of some company to sell to the highest bidder. And that a data breach can lead to losses in magnitudes to organizations. There's so many organizations that have gone under simply because there was a data breach. Not too long ago, there was a bank that lost millions of dollars because of a data breach. All right? So that's one. The second part is bias in AI decision making. If you see that sometimes you enter some prompts into ChatGPT or Meta AI and you do not get the answer you want, it's simply because similar prompts are usually entered into those machines. The machine is only going to interpret the data based on what it has initially been fed. Not unless you tweak some of those prompts, it won't give you what you are looking for, which is what is called algorithm. So that's why sometimes I always tell people, our phones listen to us. Imagine you're thinking of eating apple. All of a sudden, you're on one website now, the next thing you're seeing apple. Or you're scrolling through your Instagram, the next thing is apple. And that's when one vendor or two just enter your DM because you were thinking apple. But that is how algorithms work. The moment you feed a certain information, it's only everything about that information it will keep giving you. It's like what you did in secondary, garbage in, garbage out. So because of that, the AI might just be biased towards a certain type of information that it supplies to you. Also, dependence on technology. Over-reliance on HR automation can create vulnerabilities if system malfunctions, experience outages, or requires updates. The organization must have contingency plans and manual processes in place to ensure continuity of operations. Now, while it is good to automate, for instance, payroll, it would be better if you understand the logic. Now, when I teach compensation and benefits class, and we're talking about pay calculation, when you put the pay calculation on Excel, it's very long. You can't cram it in your head. But the reason why you need to know it is if the cloud hosting your software crashes tomorrow, and you don't understand the logic on Excel, it means that month nobody's going to get salary because you did not understand using it on Excel before you started using software to calculate your salaries. Also, if you're supposed to come up with a new process, right, that suits your organization, instead of you manually writing it down, okay, these are the challenges. You don't say, my organization, this is the issue. ChatGPT, what should I do? ChatGPT is just going to give you maybe how it works for another organization. It won't give you something that is unique to your organization. Which is why I said dependency on automation can just lead to us just being very relaxed and lethargic. Because we think that this will do it for us, so I don't need to put thought process into it. And then the impact on employee roles. HR automation can lead to changes in employee roles, requiring upskilling and reskilling to adapt to new demands. So they introduce a new software into your organization. And that's where change management comes in. When something is about to be introduced, they send people on training, and then you just upskill yourself so that you can manage that process. But imagine they introduce a new technology. They are saying, I beg, this one cannot work for me. I'm not going to attend the training. One day would come where you would need it, and because you did not train yourself on it, you become redundant. And that's what happens in redundancy cases. Because there wasn't some level of upskilling, right? You did not upskill yourself, you did not train yourself, you did not manage yourself to ensure that you are moving at par with the times. Because of that, it means that your job role is no longer needed in that organization. People who have worked in certain organizations for more than 10, 15, 20 years that have gone through different levels of evolution within the organization is because they have applied themselves, they have trained themselves to ensure that if there's a new change, right, they ensure that they move with those changes. Are we together? The next point is change management strategies for adoption, because you can't just introduce automation into your system, right? There has to be change management involved. Especially if you're introducing an automation that is going to be company-wide and not just role specific or departmental or department specific, but something that is going to happen across the full gambit of the organization. That is where change management will come into play. And the first thing you need to do is to communicate. Communicate to all stakeholders. Sometimes you might even need to communicate to people that are outside. So if maybe it's even only HR that is supposed to use that process. But remember that when payroll is done, people are supposed to get their pay slips. So if that's the anything that, oh, we have changed our compensation strategy, we are now going to be using a software for our payroll. Now all employees are now going to be getting their pay slips in their email boxes. That is communication. Not that one day they'll get mail and see pay slip and ask, where is pay slip coming from? But because you have communicated that to them from the onset, so when it comes to their emails, it doesn't come as a surprise. The next point is training and upskilling. You provide comprehensive training programs to HR and non-HR professionals on the use of automation tools, ensuring that they have the skills and knowledge to effectively implement and manage these technologies. So you don't just tell them that there's a new software on your system, you guys should use it. Okay, I open it. How am I supposed to navigate it? Yes, we have pretty smart people that once they open any software, by the time they look at it for 5 minutes, they know what to do. But what about those who are not as tech savvy as the rest? Right? So you need to teach people this is how you navigate. This is the workflows within this software. These are the workflows between each automation systems, right? And this is how you navigate them. You train them, you teach them. You have frequently asked questions that they can always refer to after the trainings. Then you address concerns. People always ask questions when you introduce softwares. How do you address those concerns that it doesn't look like you're scaring them? Because like I said, when technology is introduced, a lot of people are scared that this technology going to take over my job tomorrow. So that is where, as an HR person, you address those concerns. So you actively address concerns and resistances to change by providing clear explanations, addressing potential risks, and emphasizing the benefits for all stakeholders. And the final one is building a culture of innovation. As an organization, you can't be stagnant. You can't be doing the same thing that you were doing 3 years ago. You shouldn't be doing it now. In fact, even if that is the best thing since sliced bread in that organization, there's still something that is better than that thing. So you need to always look for it. Sometimes when I see that we've changed something and we're working on it and we've become complacent, we're getting too used to it. At that point, that is when I'm scared that, hey, what if something goes wrong? Please, what can we do to mitigate it? Right? There was something I forgot in the previous slide. Business continuity plans. What is a business continuity plan? It means that once there's a break in something, what do we need? Or what do we have in our process as a backup? Right? So that is what automation does. You should not be dependent on a technology, but you should also have backups to these things. Are we together? Now, before you implement, what is the roadmap? Assessment and planning. First things first, like I said, look at your processes first, right? Identify the areas that can be automated. Define the goals and the objectives that the automation is going to provide. Develop an implementation plan that outlines the steps involved, the timelines, and the resources that will be allocated to that implementation. So remember, the first thing I said is, all you first need to do is design a workflow. Now, when you've assessed and you've planned, you now do selection and implementation. That is when you contact this vendor. You have like 10 vendors. You now create your Excel. Okay, these ones, they responded to me on time. So it means that when it comes to communication, they are going to be quick. Okay, the next thing is their pricing. These ones, they are expensive. Or even the one, because sometimes cheap might not be the best. But then look at how their processes, when they were explaining the processes to you, did they even fit the current processes that you have? Right? So that's where you choose the platform based on your organization's specific needs and budgets. And then implement the chosen solution in a phased approach, starting with low-risk processes and gradually expanding to more complex areas. There are many times that people I'll tell someone that, oh, I'm looking for a software that can address XYZ thing for me. And then I meet some software provider. And by the time they are going through the process for me, I'm telling you that even if I use Excel, it won't be as cumbersome as this. Right? So sometimes, I'm not saying it's all processes that can be automated. Sometimes, even that Excel that you are doing, you can just enhance that Excel to just make it faster for you without having to use a software. Then there's a monitoring and evaluation phase, which is you are monitoring that process. You are monitoring, is it working? Right? Is it addressing your needs? Are they giving you value for your money? That they look at you and tell you, okay, it's not as if after 3 months they tell you, okay, we just look through it, we gave it to you as a cheap, we want to increase our pricing, If you're going to increase your pricing within 1 year, it means that you're going to keep increasing your pricing every year. Or you've even now, they maybe while they were trying to sell it to you during the implementation phase, they oversold a software to you. But by the time you are using it, you now see that this is not working for me. This is the phase you now decide, do you want to do away with it or not? And then the final point is continuous improvement. While it's working for you, even your other processes might be improving. But while it's improving, right, there should be ways that you can sell it, because most software companies will tell you that they are also open to suggestions by their partners. And what they do is they take your suggestions and they use it to enhance the current processes. I know a particular software. They first started off as a payroll software, but now they've now introduced the people side of things to it, because people noticed that their pricing was very good. And I said, if you guys are to introduce a people HRIS into your platform and add an additional, say, 2,000 naira per employee, it will still be affordable for them. And they built it and it's working for them. And they've also tried to integrate other things like HMO into that software. And it has worked for them. All right. So that has been in the end of my presentation. I'm open to questions. I'm open to people asking questions, or if there's any point that you do not understand that you like for me to touch upon, this is the part that you can touch upon. Now, I'm going to sign off using this scenario. And the scenario is a automation story. And I usually call it the apples and oranges story. And what happened? There was a guy who walked up to his boss and said, I have worked in this organization for 5 years. I have only been promoted once and I've gotten a salary review, and I only got that salary review because they were doing a countrywide increase across board. And the man said, okay, let me tell you what to do. Before I said, no, he said, and I have a colleague who resumed less than 2 years ago and has been promoted and has gotten 3 salary reviews. And the boss said, before I answer your question, take some money, buy me some apples and oranges down the road. And the guy came back and gave the boss back the money and said, the woman doesn't have any apples and oranges. And the boss said, call me the other colleague. And the other guy came and said, take this money, buy me some apples and oranges. And the guy came back with pineapple and watermelon and said, I got there and I did not see apples and oranges. But seeing that it looks like you want fruits, you might be needing the fruits because you have some vitamin C deficiency. So I have bought other types of fruits if it will be a better option for you. And the boss looked at him and said, do you see the reason why this person got promoted over you? Why? What that person did was, because that boss can say, okay, there's no apple and orange. What do they have? They have watermelon. You rather go back and come back and say, okay, they have watermelon, they have this. You now have to go back a third time. When on one go, you can easily do a whole gambit of selection. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
questions.
much, Aderele. That was excellent. If you have any questions, please let's raise our hands quickly so that we'll take them in one full sweep. If you also have a contribution, you want to say something,
so I say a question here. Lucky has raised their hand, but I see a question here. It said, in an organization where they refuse tech support processes and slow down every workflow simply because the financial aid isn't there, it's frustrating. How can I introduce automated processes that have low cost into the organization? It's a one-man business. Yes, that's actually very peculiar. Now, one of the things I say is, if you can first, right, design something simple and share, do. Sometimes you have to actually wait for, and we don't pray for this, something adverse to happen within the organization for the management to realize that, okay, maybe we do need to change some of these processes. Now, what I tell people to do is always document your conversations with line managers, with executive management people. Also, when you are going to meet an executive management person, you don't just go with a problem, go with solutions. Solution A, I never go with one solution. Solution A, solution B, solution C. The solution will be the process, the manpower needed, and if possible, the cost benefits. Most times, even have to do a cost benefit analysis. And what is the cost benefit analysis? For accounts people, it tells you if the money I am going to spend will outweigh the benefits of implementing something, then I do not need to start it. However, if the benefit is going to outweigh the cost, then it's something I need to implement. So do an analysis, a cost benefit analysis, do a pro and cons. If possible, speak to other guys within your industry and ask them, how is it being done in your side? How has it worked for you? Take all that information, put it into a slide and present it to them. Sometimes it's how we even sell our ideas to management that will determine if the management is going to go along with our ideas or not. Does that answer your question, Vicky? All right, so there was a raised hand. Please, you can, Mr. Adeosun, I don't know, Dr. Adeosun, can please unmute the person so the person can ask the question.
The person has unmuted already. Love it, you can speak.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Lara, Mr. Adeosun. Good evening, everyone. So my question is, I don't know if the question is aligned with the topic of today, but I feel I should just ask the question to get more clarification. So I joined this organization August this year as HR and operations. And 1 month into the job, my line manager, who happened to be the HR, resigned from our role. And I was asked by the CEO to assume our role with immediate effect, without even telling me, or what he just said was that he will look into the salary raise and all that. There was no proper documentation to that. And since I assumed the role, I noticed something. Okay, we don't send pay slips to staffs after the salary has been paid, of which I've noticed some things attached to paying, because when I was preparing the payroll, I noticed that some salaries, some staff that earn more pay lower pay, while those that earn less pay higher. For instance, if someone that earn like 170 as net pays the same amount with someone that earn 100 as net. So I spoke with the MD and I raised my hand, like I notified her that, okay, this is what I observed. And she was like, there's a ratio to that I should just leave it. And if me bringing this pay slip to sending pay slip to staff after salary payment, I know there will be a raise, because employee will start investigation. Why should I be paying the same amount? They will start asking themselves questions, of course, that, okay, how much are you paying? You are earning so how much are you paying as paying? You how much? They will get to find out and there will be an issues. So I'm thinking of approaching the CEOs by tomorrow when he's on seat and address this issue. And secondly, just same last month, it starts to implement an appraisal format whereby they appraise all the staffs on their sales target, giving target to all staffs, which is very kind of weird to me, because I believe that every individuals have their own roles that they should be focused on. Why assigning sales target to all the individuals? And it came up with a plan that if you don't meet a set percentage as a sales target, you get 70% of your salary. Why those that are into sales, they get 70%, while those that are not into sales, they get 80% of their salary. And that's been a very grudge within the employee. And I don't know how to approach this, but I'm planning on meeting in one-on-one on person when he's on seat and discuss this issue with you. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or not.
Okay. While this is maybe off topic, I mean, it's not bad, because I mean, one of the reasons for this platform is for us to actually learn. So let me first speak to the disparity in payments. while maybe some people are paying less pay and some people are paying more pay. If I want to get less pay, I may have introduced something like life insurance, or I'm paying a mortgage, because life insurance and mortgage add once it's introduced into the payroll, into the pays calculator, right? It reduces your pay, simply because the repayment on mortgages and life insurance, right, it has interest, and interest is the form of tax. So if you don't introduce that, it means you are going to be taxed twice. So once you put in a life insurance policy or a mortgage policy into your payee system, it reduces the liability on your payee. So maybe you want to investigate if those people, right, have insurance policies taken out, or they have mortgages being paid, right, and that is why their payee is less than people on the same umbrella. If not, the advice to your MD first is, in the case of an audit and this thing is found out, right, we will be penalized. Document it, because if that audit really comes, your mail is what is going to exonerate you. And I think you need to work with your finance team to ensuring that this issue is addressed. All right. Your finance person should even be the best person you should be speaking with, not even the MD. Maybe speak to your finance person first, and then after speaking to the finance person, take whatever you and your finance have, or you and your finance go together to the MD to address those issues. Now, for the issue of payslip, right? In as much as we say salary details are supposed to be confidential and whatnot, right? If you have a software that makes payments, right? If you have the payslip option being toggled on, it's supposed to go into everybody's mails. But where it's not going to people, where it's not going into people's mails, what you can do is have it designed, or send a mail to say payslips will only be issued out on a need basis. So it's only when someone actually needs it, they come to you, and then you have it stamped, stapled, and then you send it to the person, as against, just sending it out and maybe someone mistakenly leaves their system open and they're seeing everybody's salary, and that becomes a problem. All right. But to even eliminate that, maybe you might want to automate your payroll process, right? So that people are just getting, because once I get a mail that my payslip is in my this, it only comes as a link. If I decide I want to open it, I'll open. If I decide I don't want to open it, it's just going to be in my mail, and I can recall it some other time. With regards to your performance management, what is even the performance management like in your organization? Is it documented? Is it well documented in everybody's offer letters that they are expected to bring in one form of sales or the other? Where it's not documented, and that's where there's a problem, right? If you tell me to do something and it's not documented, right, I will tell you, document it if you really want me to do it. If I'm going to be doing it, I'm doing it because, it's not going to take so much out of me, right? And I probably am also doing it because I'm seeing the bigger picture, that if I do stuff outside my own responsibilities, it gives me a higher pedestal for promotions and whatnot. But when it deviates totally from that person's core responsibilities in that organization, then maybe you have to document it. Otherwise, just let your boss know that this might not work. You would lose employees, and then talk about how it affects your time to recruit, your turnover rate, and the other issues that come with people exiting from the organization. I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you
Vicky
very
Star.
much. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, congratulations on, I say once one door closes, another opens. You joined in August as an HR person, now you're acting director. So congratulations. All right, Vicky Star, your hand is raised. Hello, Vicky Star.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Thank you for
You're welcome.
and thank you for the answer to the first question. Really
All
interesting.
right.
I heard about you talked about payslip. Now, is it compulsory, since it's a woman business, is it compulsory that I ask for like my own payslip? Because I've never heard about such in my organization, even where I left for this present one. I have never even I at a point I asked and they came up with a lot of excuses. Now is it compulsory that I should ask in this present organization? That's my question.
So there's something called a compensation and benefits philosophy. And a compensation and benefits philosophy is what is your culture in that organization with regards to compensation, benefits, and all that, right? I don't know why we're even talking about compensation and benefits all of a sudden instead of automation. But anyways, the philosophy says if you want your pay slip, you need to ask. There's no law that says you must be given the pay slip, right? If your philosophy says, oh, because we use an HRIS, once payment is done, everybody gets a pay slip. That's the philosophy. If his philosophy says it's before the amount drops into your account that you get your pay slip, that is their philosophy, right? So what is the philosophy in your organization? And is it currently being followed to the letter? One more question and we'll call it a night because our time is fast spent and I'm already getting a notification that this meeting link will time out. So one more question or contribution before we call it a wrap. All right, no questions. Dr. Adeosun, over to you. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you so much, Aderele Amosu. That was beautiful. Thank you so much as always. Let me just allow everybody to unmute and in our usual manner, express our appreciation to you for so generously sharing with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Boss, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you, Mr.
Kalaru.
Aderele.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I can see my very good friend, Princess Olalemi, is here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you much for joining, guys. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Dorothy, I see you. Thank you very much, Dorothy.
Very much.
Thank you, Kwemi.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it too. Thank you very much. Olori, I see you too, ma. Thank you very much. To you and your army. Thank you very much, Olori.
Thank you very much.